Well, it is Thursday, September 25th, and the tropics continue to be quite an active story. Taking a look at the Atlantic Ocean as a whole, we have two named storms out in the Atlantic. As recently as yesterday, we had Tropical Storm Humberto form, and that's just to the northeast of the Lesser Antilles, the Windward Islands. But this is the area of concern right now for the southeast United States for potential tropical impacts. Really high chances of developing over the course of today. If not today, I would imagine pretty early on Friday morning. 70% chance of development over the next 48 hours, 90% chance of developing past that 48-hour window. It's right now what you see on the satellite imagery right here. It is going to be a good cluster of some showers and thunderstorms right around the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Right now, it's still hanging out in the northern Caribbean Sea, but expected to continue to move up to the north and the northwest into portions of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and the shaded area goes up to the north, just brushing up against the eastern portion of the Atlantic United States. And obviously, we have another named storm in the near vicinity, very close by this potential area of development. So there's a number of different situations that can play out. Let's talk about Tropical Storm Humberto, which is forecasted to continue to move at a pretty slow motion over the course of this weekend, only moving at 8 miles per hour to the northwest right now. Still maintaining tropical storm status, but expected to gradually strengthen into a Category 1, eventually a Category 2 by the time we get into Saturday morning, and then a major hurricane as we roll into Sunday morning as a Category 3 storm. It goes back down into a Category 2, but as you can see Tuesday at 9 a.m., it does look like it will be a high-end Category 2 storm, still with winds of 110 miles per hour, but also kind of overlapping with the shaded area of this potential area of development just to the west of it. It has 50-mile-per-hour winds right now, a central pressure of 1,004 millibars, and that pressure is going to continue to drop. Those winds are going to continue to increase. This is as of the 11 a.m. update on Thursday, September 25th. But now let's take a look at the Atlantic Basin names, because we cross off Humberto now, but we do have a very good likelihood of Imelda forming over the course of the next 24 hours. That would be our 9th named storm of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season list. But now let's talk about some model runs. This is going to be the European model in blue that you see outlined by the legend up top. This is Saturday afternoon. It looks like potential Imelda is getting its act together, continuing to move across Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. You can also get a good depiction of our frontal boundary that's moving through the southeast over the course of this weekend just to the north. Well, it does look like the European model is picking apart that Imelda is going to move at a bit of a quicker speed than Humberto, over to the east of it. If this happens, then obviously potentially Imelda is going to continue to move up towards the Atlantic coast of the United States, and Humberto is going to continue to be a little bit too far away to influence the circulation or influence the path of potential Imelda. Now, as we go into Monday, into the afternoon and evening hours, it looks like this potential tropical system is forecasted to try to move on shore along the Atlantic coast of the Carolinas, right there in between South Carolina and North Carolina, maybe potentially near Wilmington and Myrtle Beach. And if we continue into Tuesday afternoon next week, looks like that tropical moisture moves on shore, and then as these tropical storms move over land masses, they drastically weaken in nature. So a lot of disorganized moisture is present across the eastern United States. If this is the path it takes, not going to have many impacts here in central Georgia, maybe our fair share of breezy conditions, some outer bands of rain that get really close to our neck of the woods. But overall, this would be a situation that wouldn't be the worst case scenario down here in the south and the southeast. And as of right now, the consensus is Humberto is going to be a much stronger storm than whatever is forming potentially as Imelda, but we're continuing to see drastic disagreement amongst the model runs. That's why we're talking about what the European has to say here, which continues to hint that tropical moisture stays in the eastern and southeastern United States all the way into the end of the work week next week, while Humberto does curve back out into the Atlantic Ocean. So that would be a situation where the storms stay far apart from one another, to where potentially Imelda does do its own thing, continues about the path that it's forecasted about, and Humberto does continue with that cone, but also sees a northeast turn back into the Atlantic Ocean. Here's what the GFS, the Euro's counterpart, does have to say, and this is highlighted by the green shades. Humberto continuing to strengthen as it's out there in the western Atlantic Ocean, potentially Imelda moving across Hispaniola up into Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. Very similar to the European solution as of right now, but this scenario has both of these storms hovering pretty close to one another. However, potentially Imelda continues to move up in that cone forecast, and this is a model run that would have more implications to our forecasts here in the southeast United States. Not only trying to potentially make a landfall into the Atlantic portion of South Carolina, but also kind of sitting here in the southeast across South Carolina, North Carolina, and portions of East Georgia. This would send us closer to the potential center of circulation, where we'd have some gustier winds and we'd have some heavier rain bands closer to the center of this potential storm. Humberto continues to stay out to sea, and we continue to see Humberto curve back out to the north and the northeast. Well, if that system kind of meanders over the southeast United States, obviously it's going to lose its organization, but still plenty of tropical moisture that it could leave hanging as we go into the end of next week. Wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing to have some tropical moisture because it would increase the rain chances, and it's been a very dry spell down in portions of the southeast as of recently. Checking in on Hurricane Gabrielle very briefly, continuing to move over towards the east, towards portions of Western Europe, up into Morocco and Northwest Africa. Expected to continue to weaken, as it moves closer and closer towards Europe, eventually getting below tropical storm status, and just going to be a remnant low pressure system with lots of moisture and some gusty winds as it impacts portions of Spain and Portugal. But we're continuing to keep a close eye on the tropics because, like I said, if the systems stay far enough apart from one another, then it looks like potentially Imelda will move and brush up against the east coast of the United States. Still far from certain, only seeing a couple model solutions that are picking apart that scenario. The other two scenarios are the Fujiwara effect, where the systems start spinning around one another, and that would be a scenario where Humberto does try to impact areas of the eastern coast of the United States around North Carolina, Virginia, up into Maryland. Obviously, the solutions have Humberto staying out to sea, but if we have the Fujiwara, they start to spin around one another, it would send that system over there on the eastern side. It would send it up top, and then obviously the system on the west, Imelda, potentially Imelda, would go down towards the south and the southeast. So that's a scenario that could happen, or we could simply see Humberto absorb what is potentially Imelda. That would have a better consensus of the system staying out to sea. It would be a much stronger system. However, that might be the best case scenario to not have any impacts in the United States. All of this to say, it's something to continue to be aware of, Been talking a lot with these tropical updates all morning long. It's something to continue to be aware of as we head across the course of this weekend. Overall, not looking at any impacts in the East United States as of right now, but if we are to see potential impacts, it looks like our fair share of tropical storm force winds, maybe even some potential outer bands of tropical moisture. We'll continue to keep you updated about what the models are saying. There's a variety of different scenarios that could play out, so it's important to keep your eye on the tropics as we head into a portion of hurricane season that is still active. We're past the official peak, but overall, this is around the time last year that we saw activity ramp up. So obviously want to keep our guard up as we now have our H named storm in the Atlantic, and very soon could have our I named storm, which would be running ahead of the pace that we did see in last year's hurricane season. We'll continue to keep you updated if there's anything that you need to know.